Hello and welcome to the MBA Cohort videocast. My name is Alex Miller, and today I'll be interviewing Dr. Rossi, where we'll be discussing current challenges that come with food, health, and fitness in today's isolated environment. Dr. Rossi has more letters next to her name than in her actual name, which means she has a vast amount of valuable information that everyone can benefit from, especially current and future business leaders around the world. We thank Dr. Rossi so much for her time, and we ask that you please like, comment, follow, subscribe, basically whatever Christina tells you to do. And we hope you enjoy the content half as much as we enjoyed creating it. Thank you and enjoy. All right, Dr. Rossi, what an honor to have you on our show, the MBA Cohort videocast. Welcome and wishing you the best Wi-Fi possible. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine, and if the Wi-Fi holds out, I'll stay doing fine. That's a good point in this day and age, right? Yeah, definitely.
That's awesome. Now, Dr. Rossi, thank you for coming on our show that is directed towards MBAs, and we are in business school. We are not rocket scientists, okay? We are not scientists by any stretch of the imagination, and we're definitely not rockets. But you are a doctor, so please tell me what kind of doctor.
Okay, that's a great question, and it has maybe a unusual answer. My PhD is actually in education. So I was a professor of education for a long time. Before that, I taught high school. And when I came out of my master's degree and then my PhD program, that's what I expected to do my whole life. Unfortunately, or fortunately, as the case may be, around the time I started teaching high school, I got a real exercise bug, and it became an avocation. It wasn't just a hobby, it was an avocation for me, such that the time I wasn't spending teaching was time I was spending either training or learning about training. And through a variety of weird events that happened just in the right order, I ended up deciding to change my career. So I now have, in addition to my education background, I have a graduate certificate in exercise prescription from UConn. I am nearly finished with my doctorate in physical therapy, and I have a bunch of training certificates and coaching credentials and stuff along with it.
School has not stopped for you, huh?
It does not. It does not. If I'm not in school, I'm working at school, and a lot of time it's been both. So yeah, school all the time.
Well, good for you. You're going to help a lot of people doing that. That is very interesting how you have such a wide range of different degrees and different academia. Now tell me, whatever you're up to right now, if it's working or teaching or both, as you said, how has your life been affected by this global pandemic that we're all battling through right now?
It's a really interesting question, and it's the question of the hour for sure. And for my purposes, my life has changed in some very, very small ways and then some bigger ways. Mostly small ways because I've been teaching online. That's the mode that I use for teaching generally at this point. And also a lot of my coursework for my physical therapy degree is actually online. And it's live. It's like being in a regular class. It just happens that the professor is leading the class from Colorado or Washington State or Texas or wherever they might live. So that has proceeded as normal. The difference is in the fact that physical therapy involves a lot of hands-on stuff, and the hands-on stuff is on pause right now. So I should have been in Texas twice already for labs this year, and that's not going to be happening until the fall now. So everything's getting real crammed in just before graduation. So it'll be an interesting semester, I guess.
Yeah, I hear you. It does seem like we are forced to stay home. We're forced to be in our own dwellings without a lot of human interaction. Mm-hmm. For me, I was someone who would walk 4 miles to work every day, walk to the train station, get in the city, walk to work. Mm-hmm. During lunch, I would work out, be around a bunch of people. I would be coaching baseball 4 times a week. I mean, I was bouncing around MBA classes, social life. I was out a lot. Mm-hmm. Now, that started March 9th, which was roughly 25 years ago.
At least 25.
But with someone of you, so much knowledge and background in teaching and education and health, I would be remiss to ask, how does one stay mentally and physically healthy during a time like this?
Yeah, it's a really big challenge. I'm right there with you, and that I consider to be sort of a part of my professional obligations, but mostly just my personal obligations in terms of being outside for running or rucking and going to the gym to lift weights. That's always my favorite thing. and that's all gone. So it is a real challenge. And I think the first challenge is actually a mental or an emotional challenge, because we're all sitting here on the couch and it feels like, oh, vacation time, which for a lot of people is when, you know, they take a break from exercise. But when the break lasts 25 years, as you pointed out before, you know, that's too long, and we got to find ways to get around it. But the first hurdle to that is making choices that will enable us to like undertake the physical part of it. It's really, it's sort of an emotional and mental battle first.
Yeah, it's tough when you have the refrigerators staring at you all day and the cabinets staring at you there. You fully stocked because you're afraid to go to the grocery store and everything's so awkward. That is a choice that every day is a challenge to be like, no, I'm not going to have that snack. My biggest habit that I've gotten into is, instead of going to the grocery store, I Uber Eats. And so I want to help out the local restaurants and, you know, keep them alive, because I want to go back to them when this whole thing's over. So I've gotten to an Uber Eats habit, which is not the healthiest food. So in terms of a diet and a healthy diet that someone can maintain when they're in this new environment, what are some of the tips that you have for people?
That's a really good question. We started off really being good about getting to the grocery store and bringing a lot of stuff in. But as you say, you make a point of stocking up for 2 weeks for sure, you know, maybe 3 weeks. And along with that giant trip to the grocery store comes a lot of treats and snacks that you might not normally eat, right? And as you said, people are feeling stressed, people are feeling, you know, worried and bummed out and all kinds of things. And we as a society have a pretty understandable habit of trying to make ourselves feel better with eating tasty stuff. So I would say that one way to try controlling that is to have the discipline and the forethought to manage what you actually pull off the shelves when you're at the grocery store. You know, you get there and you're stressed out, you're wearing your masks, but maybe everybody else isn't wearing their masks. And even going to the grocery store itself is a really stressful activity at this point, which is so weird in our society, right? The most everyday activity you can imagine is like a major expedition these days. And I think probably, and I'm not an expert on the psychology of eating, although I know a little bit, I suspect that definitely plays into our unusual willingness, people who would never pull cakes off the shelves or pulling 10 cakes off the shelves. So I think if you can prepare yourself to do a good job of grocery shopping more carefully, such that your supply of that kind of stuff is more limited at home, you're setting yourself up for better success. Now, with that said, grocery shopping really has become a task, right? So, and as I said, we started out being really good about it. We also have turned to Uber Eats a lot more often lately. And I think when you're doing that, the trick is to try, when you're placing those orders, to sort of divorce yourself from your emotions and your feelings for just a minute and just try to make better choices. They don't have to be the best choices. This isn't going to last forever, hopefully, if we do the right thing. This isn't a lifestyle change. It should be permanent. So if we can just manage ourselves as best we can, we're doing okay. So make those choices for protein, make those choices for, you know, complex carbs, make those choices that's not so much of like buffalo wings, although those are delicious and hard to turn down, you know, but just as best you can do, you know, make good choices.
Because it's almost like this dichotomy we're in, where if you want to eat healthy, you need to get fresh food, you know, things that are not processed, things that don't have preservatives in them. However, in order to do that, you need to be going in and out to stores and out and about and in markets, and that's kind of taken away from us. And now it's all sodium and last forever. And you understand.
It's a
ice
cream. Yeah, ice cream is a big one. Any of these things, you know, we really are wired to get these calories into our mouths, right? And I don't want to say anything to a bunch of MBAs, but you know, marketers support that habit by helping companies make really tasty food that like pushes all of our I have to eat that buttons. And it's like kind of a perfect storm of junk food eating at this point, unfortunately.
So what role does this self-isolation, this global pandemic play in our motivation to work out and try to shed some of these calories that we're intaking at home?
Yeah, I think that's a large question with several answers. And I think one of them is, again, the emotional and mental stresses that we've just talked about. Okay, so that's part of it. Another big part of it is that for people who are seriously into anything, whether it's working out or model trains, a habit is a huge part of that, right? And when our routines get thrown off and our habits get thrown off, all of a sudden that automatic, I'm going to do this now and then I'm going to do this next, is gone, which means we're back to relying on our like volitional willpower to do something. Now, the problem with that, okay, so what habits are kind of stricken from what we can rely on at this point. The problem there becomes, is you use that M word, motivation, right? Motivation is a very fickle friend. And we see billions of Instagram posts every day about, this is my motivation, or here's how I'm going to get my motivation, or here's how I'm going to keep my motivation. You know what the secret is? You can't keep your motivation. It's impossible to remain motivated all the time. It's just not something you can count on. So with that in mind, what you actually have to rely on is the disciplines know that this is something I have to do, even though I don't necessarily feel like it. And is this going to contribute to me being the kind of person I want to be? Not so much, is this something I actually feel like doing? It's bad enough I'm sitting in this comfy office chair. I'm training for like a firefighter physical evaluation, right? So I do stairs with a heavy bag on my back. All I have to do is put my sneakers on and go 6 feet down the hall with a backpack on my back. And all of a sudden putting my sneakers on is like too much sometimes. That's crazy, right? So clearly it's not the actual activity that's the problem. It's our mindset and how we're looking at it. And so we just have to ignore the mindset that we're looking at these things from and say, too bad, got to put my shoes on and go.
Right. And then try to come up with new habits that fit to this new environment.
Exactly. That's exactly right. That's a challenge.
It is a challenge. Is there any, I don't know, maybe it's not even, everyone wants to do a 30-day challenge, a 90-day challenge, a 2020 challenge. That seems like a very long period of time that has a lot of variables in it. So it's hard to make a good guess on the probability there. Those are all MBA terms that I need to throw in there, probability.
I love it. It's great. Excellent.
But is there a 7-day challenge that you would recommend to people to just get back into healthier habits, whether it's eating or working out or self-care, whatever that looks like to you?
Yeah, literally the best thing you can do for yourself ever, but particularly given our circumstances currently, is lower what we call the barriers to participation as much as possible. You probably have something like that in business. What's stopping somebody from buying this product? What's stopping somebody from, paying attention to this particular advertisement? We say that in exercise all the time. What's getting in the way of somebody being able to take that step into doing something healthy for themselves? And so like the usual tricks for getting around these things are things like sleep in your gym clothes, put your gym bag by the door. But right now, most of us aren't putting on gym clothes and we're not going to the gym. So we have no place to take that bag that we put by the door. So instead, the first trick is going to be to figure out what is your fitness plan even capable of looking like in this day and age. Can you go out? Do you have somebody with the virus in your house and therefore you really shouldn't be going out? You have to make those kind of choices. And then from there, how do you make it absolutely as easy on yourself as possible? That word challenge implies that it's going to be hard and you're going to do it anyway. That's baloney. If it's hard, you're not going to do it. And there's no medal for making this as difficult as possible. There's no award for saying, geez, I suffered the most when I stuck to this thing. The trick is to make it as easy as possible and give yourself the time to turn it into a habit.
I like that. Yeah, I never thought of the word challenge like that. It does seem intimidating. It's like, oh, I don't know. I got enough challenges in my life. I don't want to give myself more challenges. Yeah. How can I make my day
if you stick
better?
to it. Yeah, exactly.
I like that.
Exercise should be something. I saw a great quote, I think in a CrossFit gym that said, exercise is not punishment for what you ate. It's a celebration of what your body can do. And I think that that's really true. And we skip over that so constantly in our society that it is a little infuriating, honestly. So we should do better than that.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. All these personal trainers are gonna be like, shh. We need
exactly.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so now this is an MBA cohort video cast. So we all have companies. Typically, we all have companies we work for, or we run companies or own small businesses. What is your opinion on the role that companies or employers should have in an employee's life? Period.
With regard to health and fitness.
Yeah.
Right.
In your opinion, what role should employers play in an employee's fitness and health life?
I think that if employers take the large view of productivity in this country, they would see rather quickly that it behooves them to provide those kind of opportunities for employees and even to incentivize them to a certain extent. Now, there is research that says employers incentivizing health and wellness practices don't necessarily work, but they also don't hurt and they don't cost that much. So given that, and knowing that lower back pain alone, like chronic, like not I'm in the hospital because I fractured my spine, but like, ow, my back is sore and I threw it out, throwing out the garbage or whatever. that costs this country billions and billions of dollars every year, because those people are not going to work. They're taking up spots in the emergency room or the urgent care, and they're costing the insurance plans enormous amounts of money, all to not much of an end, because that's not really how you treat those things, right? Physical therapy is the best way to treat low back pain. So with that kind of thing in mind, and then of course, okay, so that's like a mild issue, but it costs huge amounts of money. Then you have cardiovascular disease, right? It is remarkably easy to use exercise to help people improve their cardiovascular fitness, to help people do a little bit more to prevent heart disease and lung disease, okay? When you're talking about people who are headed in that direction, you're talking about people mostly with things like high blood pressure and diabetes, and the extent to which just a little bit of exercise can help manage those it's shocking. It's not dramatic, it's shocking. I thought I read it wrong the first time I was reading those statistics, and then I learned more about them, and it's really true. So I think that if employers sort of want to take the long view and as you said, like have their employees not only working for them for a long time into the future, but to come to work every day healthy and ready to go, it really is smart of them to offer those kinds of opportunities. And again, to lower those barriers to participation, make those lunch breaks 10 minutes longer so that people have a chance to shower after using the gym, or whatever it might be.
Yeah, and especially from this work at home environment, it's almost I don't know how much longer we can last from sitting on the couch all day on my laptop before more health problems arise. So I totally. Any companies stick out in your mind, the leaders of the pack or that are doing?
I think Google is the most famous, right? Obviously, that's like a sort of a holy grail for a lot of people for a lot of the perk reasons, but the perks that catch my attention are not so much like the massage therapists and the nap pods as much as the fact that they have outstanding gyms, outstanding cafeterias and eating facilities that really do offer a lot of nutritious options. And my understanding is they have a lot of support for people who want to learn how to become more active. So but of course they're huge. In terms of smaller companies, unfortunately, this country is not good at promoting that, especially in industry. We tend to think of that's on the worker, that's their private time, that's got nothing to do with me, and I don't want anything to do with it. So.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it's a low cost, but huge investment long term is investing in your people. Because ultimately the company is just a bunch of people working for one mission, one goal, whatever the company does. But it has to have people. They don't work in vacuums. Someone has to program it. Someone has to sell it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so that'd be the best investment. But they don't want to make that investment. They want to do happy hours and cruises and incentives to go on vacation and be more lazy and you're luxurious. It's like, no, I mean, if you're going to work, you might as well work in a body that is healthy and active and wants to produce.
Right. Yeah, and it makes you happy.
Can't wait for happy hour or something.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the movie Legally Blonde? It was a while
Legally
back.
Blonde?
Yeah. Elle Woods goes to law
school. Sure.
Yeah. And you remember, of course, she was very famous for saying, exercise gives you endorphins, and endorphins make you happy, and happy people don't kill other people. That's a simplification, but it's not too much of a simplification.
No, I love that.
More pleasant to work with and next to if they have had enough exercise to make their bodies happy.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with that. Okay, I think we covered a lot in those three categories, but I do want to look into the future a little bit.
Sure.
We're going through right now, we're all struggling through, from a child who can't play Little League Baseball right now to, elderly people who are scared. I mean, there's fear across the board. But we're going to get through this. There's going to be an end. There's going to be a return to normalcy, whatever that looks like. But we're going to be better for it. We're going to be stronger for it, I think. What is going to be the first place that you go once social distancing calms down and you're comfortable enough to leave your dwellings and go back into the world?
Yeah, the gym is definitely on the list. I do not have
it's not on the list,
right? It's right at the top of the list. I do not have, like your roommate has, I do not have room for a bench press or dumbbells or anything else. And I'm a power lifter and a strong woman, so I can't do those things in my house. I've really had to change my goals. But off the topic of this, I would say I'm looking forward to going to the beach, breaking out my paddleboard. Hopefully it'll be hot still when we're finished with this, and I'll be able to get out there on the water. So.
Yeah, I paddleboarded in the little sound between Harbor Point, and crab shell.
Yeah, sure.
That little stream is right there. Don't recommend it. Those waters are a little murky. Where do you typically go to paddleboard in Connecticut?
Well, in Connecticut, we actually do the Saugatuck River in Westport pretty frequently. So
Oh, okay.
speaking of murky water, that's right up there. But it's a unique experience because you're literally like paddling through town. Like you go past the library. It's really weird. So
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
It's very New England.
Very New England. Yes. Exactly.
All right, great. Well, Dr. Rossi, on behalf of the MBA cohort, all students, professors, and staff at the great University of Connecticut, including Professor McAvoy, thank you for your generous time and wisdom you've given us the opportunity to absorb. It was a pleasure spending time with you, and don't forget to take a smile for the road.
Excellent. The pleasure was mine. Thanks so much for your time.
All right.